So Rabbi
It's
Lowe,
very impressive if you could put your finger on the Gemara and finger on the
I know I was trying to do that. But I can't move out of the
right.
I can't move out of the box.
You're in a very small box. You're in a very small box. Yeah.
Okay. So Rabbi Lowe said something that was very offensive. He said on Friday night, speaking about the yard set of Meir Shapiro, he said over that Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky was makabel on himself to learn Daf Yomi. And after his first seeing, he says, there were days that the only Torah Shabbat Peh that I learned was Daf Yomi. Well, I was offended because that's my lechatchila. His biggest b'diavad is my lechatchila. So I told Rabbi Lowe, what am I supposed to do with that? And then, of course, we have Shmuel's story where he told his family that today is the Yotet of Meir Shapiro, the person who was Miyasid Daf Yomi. So Shmuel's daughter says, wasn't that Ahuba Hofstadter's father who made up Daf Yomi? So Rabbi Lowe said it over as well. Okay. No, Shmuel's daughter, yeah. Okay. Zok the Heilige Gemara, we are about 8 lines from the bottom, Daf Kufal Medvav on the page. And where we're holding is in the sugya of Kinyan Perish Kakin Aguf. And we learned that there's a machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan, who holds Kinyan Perish Kakin Aguf, and Rish Lakish, who holds Kinyan Perish Laf Kakin Aguf. Now, this machlokes has an impact in many different sugyas, but we discussed specifically 2 sugyas. The first thing we discussed was related to Bava Basra. That was if a father decided that he wants to give everything over to his son after he dies, but until he dies, he wants to be able to have full use of his properties. So he told his son, you're going to be koinim hayomu la'achamisa. And we said that the son gets a kinyan haguf right away, but he doesn't get the kinyan payers. The father gets to keep the payers. And when the father dies, then the son's kinyan haguf will expand into a full kinyan of payers and kinyan haguf. The question that we had was, what if the son, when he only has a kinyan haguf, but not a kinyan of payers, meaning while his father's alive, he sells that schus to a third party. And then he dies. And only then does his father die. Do we say that the loikeach gets exactly whatever the son had, and now he has the payers and the guf? Or do you say that since the son died, he never really had grasp of the property, so he was unable to sell it to the loikeach, and therefore the loikeach is not kohen? That child depends on how much of a grasp the father has in it. The father only has a kinyan payers. So the question is, the father's kinyan payers that he has in this property during his lifetime, is that strong enough of a grasp that it's kikina guf? And therefore, the son doesn't have enough of a grasp in the property to be able to sell it to a third party? Or do you say that kinyan payers, lav kikina guf, the father's kinyan is not so strong in it? The son has enough of a grasp to be able to sell it. Now, of course, if the son sold it and the son survived the father, so there the bechira would work. Why? Because upon the death of his father, everything will be transferred to him, and then it will transfer to the lekeach. But here we need the transfer to the lekeach before he had full grasp. So Rabbi Yochanan holds the father's kinyan parish is very strong, and therefore the father's grasping it, the son's grasp of this property is not strong enough to be able to sell it. Shlokish holds the father's kinyan parish is weak, and therefore it's not enough of a grasp to prevent the grasp of the son from selling. So that was one way in which this machlokes manifested itself. The other one was a much simpler case. Someone owns a property and he leases his property to somebody for 5 years. So basically, he gave only a kinyan parish to somebody. Now, this person has big, beautiful fruit that grew in his leased property. He has to bring it for bikurim. He has to bring the first bunch for bikurim. Does he say the parsha of bikurim where he has to say that this grew al ha'adama asher nosat ali on my land? If you hold kinyan parish kakina guf like Rabbi Yochanan, then you would be able to say the kriyas of the parsha of bikurim because you're not lying when you say asher nosat ali. But if you hold kinyan parish lav kakina guf like Rish Lakish, you would bring the bikurim of a leased field, but you would not be kairi. So that's what we are starting with today. This machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, whether kinyan parish is kakina guf, and Rabbi Yochanan is now going to challenge Rish Lakish and prove that Kinyan Paris is Kekina. Eitzer Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish. Nechasai loch. Someone said to Ruvain, all my nechasim, I'm gifting to you a Kinyan Paris while you're after I die, while you're alive. V'acharecha, and after you die, Yirash Ploini, Shimon will get it after you. V'acharav, and after Shimon, Yirish Ploini, Levi will get it. So before we can even get into this brisa, we need to process it a little bit. Because if Acharecha Yirish Ploini, if Shimon yarshined it, how could the Noisein divert it now to Levi after Shimon dies? If Shimon yarshined it, it's completely his, and it can no longer be directed by, you can't do that. Once it's his Berush, you can't do anything. So this is not a new kasha. The Gemara asked this kasha 3 or 4 days ago. When the Gemara brought in Rab Shesha Shishita, who holds that if anywhere in the Nusach it says the word matana, even if there's a word mentioned Yerusha Lagabe, some other transaction in there, matana applies to everything. So therefore, since I want the second guy to get it, and then I want to go to the third guy, it must be that the Yarish Ploini also means matana. So Nechasai, that is for sure means matana. I'm giving you a matana, a kinyan payers, as long as you're alive. Vacharecha Yirish Ploini, which also means matana. Afterwards, Shimon's going to get it with a kinyan payers as well, and Yerusha can be matana because of Rav Sheshes and halacha, since the word matana is mentioned anywhere else. The Akharav Yirish Ploini, the final destination for this field, will be after Shimon dies. Levi will get it, and Levi is going to get it permanently. So that's a real Yerusha. Meish Rishon, what happens if Reuven dies? We follow along in the succession as dictated by the Mitzvah. Kana Sheni. Shimon will get it. Mei Sheni, if Shimon dies when he's supposed to, then Kana Shlishi, it will go to Levi. That works out good. But what if the schedule didn't work its way out the way the Mitzvah had hoped? So what if Mei Sheni Bechaye Rishon? What if Shimon died before Reuven? So now Reuven had a kinyan payers and he died. It can't go to Shimon. Shimon's not here. It can't go to Levi because he said it should go to Shimon va'achrav Levi. If he would have said it should go to Shimon, and if Shimon's not around, then it should go to Levi, and it would go to Levi. But that's not what his Matana said. His Matana said it should only go to Levi after it goes through Shimon. So now the chain got chopped, and we're in a short circuit situation. If it was a computer program, it would say error. Or if it was an Excel spreadsheet, it would say error. Do you need help calculating this step? Right? So he's got a problem over here. So what is the halacha? Yachzru nechasim liyar sharisha. They stay by Reuven. So let's think about this. What grasp does Reuven have on this property? He has a kinyan payers. Now, if kinyan payers kekina gof, we say he has a pretty strong grasp on this property, so it makes sense. If the chain stopped, he was holding the property, it'll just stay by him and go to his children. But if you hold like Rish Lakish, that kinyan payers lav kekina gof to me, it's a lease. His lease expired. His lease is over. Why in the world should it go back to him? It's not his anymore. The moment he dies, his lease expired. He only has a kinyan payers. It's gone. So why in the world would it go back to Reuven? If you hold like Rish Lakish, that it's merely a light kinyan payers, you know what should happen with it? The lease expires. It goes back to the original mitzvah, and it should go to his children. Elamai, you have a raya that kinyan payers must be kinyan growth, and therefore, even though Reuven only had a kinyan payers, but that kinyan payers gives him a real grasp into the property, and therefore it's his. When he dies, it has nowhere to go. It will go to his children. Amalei, Rish Lakish told Rabbi Yochanan, nice try, but I've heard this kasha before. And Fartirgama Rav Hoshi of Bava, Rav Hoshi of Bava already explained this is not a standard kinyan payers, because here the wording used by the mitzvah was acharecha, nechasei loch the acharecha yirish plani. Whenever you use the lashon acharecha, it's not a standard kinyan payers. It's an upgraded kinyan payers that would meet the threshold of Rabbi Yochanan's kinyan payers. Just like Rabbi Yochanan knows a standard kinyan payers. Also, is kinyan aguf, it gives him a grasp of the property. I hold the standard kinyan payers doesn't do that. But if the mitzvah uses the word acharecha, there he's saying, I want that upgraded kinyan payers the Kinyan Paris does have Kinyan Guf, and that's why in this case it goes back to the Yorsha Rishon. Acharecha Shiny. V'chein Rami Rabba Barafuna Kamei de Ravi Amar Acharecha Shiny. So what is this Acharecha? So the Rashbam articulates it very, very beautifully. So I'm in the Rashbam that's about 9-10 lines from the bottom. Acharecha Shiny. The Mashma, the Guf Upeiros Nosan Arita. That has a connotation that is giving him the Guf and the Peiros. Now, it doesn't mean he literally gave it to him, because if he literally gave it to him fully, it would stay by him. It means he gave them some level of a grasp in the Kinyan in this field through the Kinyan Paris, which meets the threshold of Rabbi Yochanan's standard off the rack Kinyan Paris. The Behedya Parish Acharecha Yirish Pliny. He said, after you, Shimon should get it. V'halesa Delerish, but Shimon is not here. So since Shimon is not here, the chain stops and everything remains where it is. The status quo is that it's now in the possession of Reuven because his Kinyan Paris is a strong Kinyan Paris. It's like a Kinyan Guf. So since that's where it is, that's where it remains.
What's the first guy?
Reuven is the first guy.
Reuven didn't get an Acharecha.
He
Reuven just got
No, he said the Mitzvah said, I'm giving my field to Reuven, the Acharecha after you means you're going to get it really strong, then it should go to Shimon. So this enhanced Kinyan Paris, right? Since he says Acharecha, when he's transferring it away from Reuben to Shimon, that enlightens us in what his intention of how much Reuben should own it. So since he's saying Acharecha when he's taking it away from Reuben, it means that it was very much by Reuben. More than a standard Kinyan Paris, it was an enhanced Kinyan Paris, which is like Kinyan.
That's why he didn't keep it.
And, right, because he has enough grasp of it that if everything stops, it actually is in Reuben's Rishos. If it's a standard Kinyan Paris, the lease is over. It's not in his Rishos anymore. But if he has some grasp on it, then it's in his Rishos.
Reuben really has a pet to sell it also.
Yes, we're going to see that in a second. That's exactly correct. The Hachi Kamerle, this is what the Mitzvah meant to tell Reuven. Kol Yemei Chayecha, all the days of your life, Mr. Reuven, HaKoyel Shaloch, HaPri V'Aguf, Umashi Yishtayer Acharecha, and what you leave over, the remnants of whatever you leave over from this property, Yikabel Ploini Shimon Reuven. And like what he said, we're shortly going to see that he has enough of a bias in it that if he sold it, it would be a good sale, and Shimon would not get it. Sorry? That's correct, even if Shimon's alive. Okay, beautiful. So that is the Rish Lakish's teretz. So now we've learned there's a Kinyan Paris, that's a standard Kinyan Paris. Then there's the standard Kinyan Paris, which according to Rabbi Yochanan, gives you a greater grasp, it's like a Kinyan Guf. And then there's the Kinyan Paris enhanced, which is Acharecha, which even Rish Lakish agrees has the properties of Rabbi Yochanan's standard Kinyan Paris. Gewaltig. Zog to Gemara, we have a problem. There's a brisa that argues on the brisa that we just quoted and says it does go back to the Noisa. So let's think about it. Bishlam, according to Rish Lakish, that could be speaking where he didn't say Acharecha. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, Acharecha you don't need. A standard Kinyan Paris is Kinyan Guf. So under what circumstances should there ever be a halacha of a Yachsru L'Yarshanit Noisei? It should always be Yachsru L'Yarshay Harishai. So it's a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan. This is how the Rashbam learns the kasha. Tosfos learns that it's a kasha on Rish Lakish, but we're going to learn according to the Rashbam. So you, Rabbi Yochanan, who say that every standard Kinyan Paris is Kinyan Guf, there'll never be a scenario where it should go back to the Noisei. It should always only go to Reuven. So Vatanya Yachsru L'Yarshay Noisei. That's the kasha on Rabbi Yochanan. And for the Gemara, Tanaihi, Rabbi Yochanan will have to admit that his opinion doesn't follow everybody. His opinion will only follow the other Tana, who said Yachsru L'Yarshay Rishon. Because in fact, the Tana who says Yachsru L'Yarshay Noisei holds like Rish Lakish, that Kinyan Paris is Lafke Kinyan Aguftam. The Tanya, I'm going to show you that there's a machlokes about Kinyan Paris Kinyan Aguf. One of the kashas that Tosfos has on the Rashbam is we need to illustrate some remote case where there's a machlokes of Kinyan Paris Kinyan Aguf. Shas is full of examples of a discussion as to whether or not kinyan peres kinyan guf. So it sounds like Rabbi Yochanan has to prove that there's actually a machlokes about it. There's so many places, it's a known thing. That's one of the things that Tosfos does not like about the Rashbam Shah. But whatever the case is, here's the machlokes tonight. Nichse loch v'acharecha l'plein. V'yarad rishon u'mochar v'ochal. The first guy, Ruvain, sold the field and he consumed all of the money. There's nothing left of this property. The halacha is Hasheni moitzi miyad halakuchos. When Reuven dies, Shimon could say to the lakuchos, he only was able to sell it to you in your lifetime, in his lifetime, because he had a kinyan peres. He didn't have a kinyan guf. I can come take it away. Clearly, clearly Rebbe holds kinyan peres laf kinyan guf. And in fact, Rabbi Yochanan said, I can't make myself consistent with Rebbe. Rebbe argued on it. But Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, ein l'sheni elo mashashaya rishon. You could, the Rishon could sell it, which means the Rishon has a strong grasp in it. He has a kinyan. So here, Rabbi Yochanan says, I don't stim according to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, according to Rebbe, but I stim very nicely according to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. How is Rish Lakish going to approach this machlokes? Rish Lakish, Zok der Rashbam, is going to approach this machlokes differently. This machlokes is by a case of acharecha, right? Nisalach acharecha leplani. Rish Lakish had a big chiddush that acharecha creates a kinyan. Zok Rish Lakish, that's only according to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. According to Rebbe, acharecha doesn't have that extra impact. So, according to Rabbi Yochanan, the machlokes Rebbe and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel is kinyan peres kinyan guf. That's the base machlokes. According to Rish Lakish, everybody agrees to me that kinyan peres laf kinyan guf. The machlokes Rebbe and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel is if acharecha enhances it. Gebaltik. Uramini, but we have a problem because we're going to quote a brisa that directly flips what Rebbe said and what Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said, which will now result in a stira both in Rebbe and in Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. The same case as before. The first fellow, Ruvain, could sell it and eat it, divrei Rebbe. So this sounds very much like he has a kinyan guf. A moment ago, Rebbe said, Hasheni moitzi miyad halakuchos. So we have a big stira here in Rebbe. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, ein l'rishon ela achilos peres bilbad. The Rishon can't sell it because he only has achilos peres. When in the Friedrich brisa, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said, ein l'sheni ela mashashaya rishon. So it's the direct stira. Because he only has peres. If he only has peres, that means that's all he could sell. So therefore, if he sells it, the lakech will come and take it away. No, the first is ein l'sheni ela mashashaya rishon. Meaning only what I left over. So if I sold it, there's nothing left for the sheni. It says acharecha. The case is acharecha. Which means all the Rishon could have sold was achilas peres. So if I sold it, the lakech can come and take it away. No, whatever he left over, but I left over nothing because I sold it already.
I sold the peres.
No, I sold the goof too. We sold everything. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have a stira. Zog to Gemara,
Kasha the Rebbe.
Kasha the Rebbe, Udi Rab Shimon ben Gamliel, Adi Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. Zog to Gemara, the Rebbe had the Rebbe like Kasha. Hal gufa, hal peir. One's talking about the goof, one's talking about the pairs. Let's look at it inside. It becomes crystal clear. So the loch is Hasheni moitzi miyad al kuchos divrei Rebbe. The sheni can come, take away the guf hakarka from the lekuchos, because kinyan peres laf kinyan guf. They never had the right to sell. He only was able to sell. He was only able to sell the pears, not the guf. So it's very logical. They're going to come take it. What does he say in the second brisa? In the second brisa, what he said was, Yored Rishon u'moichavoichel. He's allowed to sell it. He's allowed to sell it. His pears. He's allowed to sell his pears. The pears are his. He has every right to sell them. After he dies, the lekech has to give it up to Shimon. But whatever he sold, there's no problem with him selling it. He's selling what he's entitled to sell. The Rabbi Shimon Gamliel loy kasha. This is a nice twist. So let's look back at the brisa. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer ein l'sheni elo mashashaya rishon, which means it's a kinyan guf. And if the rishon sells, he really messed everybody up because he went keneged the intention of the mitzvah. he was empowered to go connect the mitzvah because he got the key in the goof, but that's not what the mitzvah wanted. The mitzvah said, "I wanted to go to Shimon," right after you're done. So if he did it with the Evid wrongfully, morally, but it works. But the second price is talking about the Chatchila. That's what the intention of the mitzvah was. So he shouldn't sell it. So it's lechatchila. Don't sell it because you're really going to ruin the plan of the mitzvah. But if you did, avada would work. According to Rebbe, Gesundheit, sell it because you can't impact the plan of the mitzvah anyway. Because the most you can sell is the parish wall you have. Zok to Gemara, loikasha, halduguvala payir, beautiful. So now we're going to bring the sugya and button it up. Amar Abaye, Zok to Abaye, Azor Rasha Arim. Rasha Arim, I think if you look it up in the dictionary, I think it's translated as SOB. I think that's how you would describe Rasha Arim. It's someone who is a conniving. He's a conniving. We're going to get to who he is. A conniving SOB who will give somebody an eitzah how to screw somebody over, even though he doesn't get benefit from it. He's just a troublemaker. He's just a low-life troublemaker. He won't benefit, but he's going to cause machlokes by everybody else. Names. Eza Rasha Arim. Who's a Rasha Arim? Zehamasi Eitzah Limkar b'nechosim Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. According to Rab Shimon ben Gamliel, Rekina Peresh Kikina Guf, if you go and tell Reuven, sell it and make money off it, don't let Shimon get it. Sell it, you'll make all the money. That's called a Rasha Arim. Zehamasi Eitzah Limkar b'nechosim Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. So this, as an aside, tells us, reinforces the teretz that we just gave. According to Rav Shimon Gamliel, it will work, but it's not a nice thing to do. Frank de Rashbam, he might be a Rasha Arim, but Reuben's a Rasha Mamish. Reuben did a big avla. He diverted the Yerusha to himself and to his buyer, and he cut Shimon out of the deal when the person who gave it to him wanted Shimon to get it. So why would we make such a big deal about the Eitzah guy over? The guy himself is a lowlife. Zok to Rashbam is something very beautiful. Zog to Rashbam as follows. Umiu, I'm 3 lines from the bottom. Hamoicher atzmoi, Reuben himself, the Hanu Rishon, loy mikir Rasha, he's not a Rasha. The Avagav, the Lechatchila, Asr Lasses came, even though Lechatchila, it's also to do because that's really violating the intention of the noise. But Lamai said, loy Chamer Yisura, it's not a Chamer de Geser. Why? Because he didn't steal. The Maisa, he had the right to do it. He was given it. So he didn't do anything wrong. He's benefiting and he was given it. It's not a nice thing. I know a lot of people who are wealthy and they're never break the law, but they're low lives, right? So therefore, I'm not thinking of anybody in particular. Don't worry. So that's not something, that's not a Rosh Arim. A Rosh Arim is someone who causes sorrows by other people when he doesn't even benefit from it. I think another word, there's another word for Rosh Arim. I think it's called a do-gooder. I think it's called a do-gooder. That's also another word for a Rosh Arim.
It's a Yenamite.
Okay, Gavalsi. Akiva, please, let's not name names.
Okay.
Okay. Zog to Gemara weiter.
It's also Lifnei Iver, by the way. I think if somebody he's giving advice for somebody to liquidate.
No, that's only if you decide somebody that is bad for the guy you're giving it to. This is bad for the Noisei, and it's bad for Shimon. It's not bad for Reuben.
Because the guy who's doing it is doing something wrong.
No, the Gemara says he's not a Rashi, he's not doing anything wrong.
Lifnei Iver is not something wrong either. Remember, Lifnei Iver is simply that it's not within his profile of how he should be managing a state. It could be for somebody else.
But it can't be Lifnei Iver because there's exactly a shaila how Lifnei Iver works. If you're over Lifnei Iver, is it a new love of Lifnei Iver? Or are you over, it's as if you were over that love?
No.
So, no, there's a shaila look. So, Lama Zogin, I advise a kohen to be metama, but Amal Yisrael. The Rashid is told I can't be over Lifnei Iver because if I get his avera, I don't get an avera for walking into basic parts. I'm not a kohen. So here too, he didn't do it. But
That's why he's a Rosh Arim.
But that's right. That's right.
He's out of a month.
A tzaddik is a zichanish.
Yeah.
A tzaddik is a zichanish. It's like when the Satmar Rebbe met one of his chassidim who left Satmar and he became a modern Orthodox Jew, and he met him on the street. He says, "Mechul, what's master?" So the chassid says, "Rebbe, my name is not Mechul anymore. I'm a different person. Can't you tell? I'm Michael." So the Satmar Rebbe says, "I'm Machmer bist zichanish." Okay. Zog
This
Gemara
Russia Arum, by the way, finds it complimentary that you're calling him in Russia Arum.
Probably does. Okay, Zog Gemara weiter. Zog Gemara weiter. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, halacha Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. Again, we're posting like Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. The Rashbam says even Rish Lakish agrees to this. The difference is Rabbi Yochanan learns that Rab Shimon ben Gamliel is saying Kinyan Peres Kinyan Guf. Rish Lakish understands Rab Shimon ben Gamliel is saying that if he said Acharecha, then it's Kinyan Guf. But they both agree to Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. Umoida. Now this is another interesting twist. Here we're literally getting into nanoseconds. Umoida. They all agree, even Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, who holds that Reuben could sell it and the sale would work. What if Reuben didn't sell it? Rather, Reuben gifted it to somebody as a matna shchivmera. Umoide shem nosnan the matna shchivmera. If Reuben said, "I want to go to Moshe Pipik," matna shchivmera, lo yasa klum, that doesn't stop Shimon from getting it. Shimon will get it. Why? My timer, Omer Abaye, matna shchivmera lo kana elo la'achamisa. A matna shchivmera only transfers after the Noisen dies. That means after Reuven is dead. But the Noisen's acharecha is chal before, a little bit before Reuven's dead, when he's half dead. Why is that? The Rashbam explains very, very beautifully. The Noisen, his perspective is, I want Reuven to have it for as long as he could benefit from it. Once he can't benefit from it, let it go to Shimon. If Reuben's half dead, he can't benefit from it anymore. So move it over to Shimon. But a Shchimra saying, no. I need it till I'm dead. You can have it only after I'm dead. So since there's a couple of seconds in between those two times, the Noisen got to it first. And he already transferred it to Shimon before Reuben was able to transfer it to Moshe Pipin.
But if Shimon I would have sold it when he was.
That's a sale. It's something else. Yeah. With Matna Shchivmer as a special takana,
Right.
it works like Yerusha. It works like Hamis. Frank the Gemara, Umi Amar Abaye Hachi. Did Abaye actually say that a Matna Shchivmer only is chal after his death, after he's completely dead? Via Itmar. We learned Matna Shchivmer Me'emus Hakana. What is the moment that the Matna Shchivmer is kind? Abaye Amar Im Gemar Misa. Not after he's dead, as he's dying, which is exactly the same time as the matana from the Mitzvah. You're right, Abaye did say that once, but Hodder Bey Abaye Mehi. We have two things that Abaye said. In one case, he said that it's im misa, im gemar misa. In another place, he said it's acher gemar misa. But Abaye was choizer from the im gemar misa to conclude that it's acher gemar misa. Frankly, how do you know? Just because he says two things and you like this one better, that means that's what he concluded? Maybe he was choizer from when he said it's acher gemar misa. Maybe it's b'shas gemar misa, and therefore maybe his matna shchivra should work. It's not mistaber that when he's giving something away, he's giving it away earlier. Rather, he's holding on to it till the latest possible time. How do we know? Because we know what Abaye's opinion was. L'gabe gerish. Someone said this will be a get, but it will be chal if I die. In other words, it will be chal achamisa. This is a get if I die from the sickness, or zegitech lachamisa. Loy omar klum. It's zero. It's zilch. You know why? Because it's not kal in gemar misa. It's kal after the gemar misa. So the same way when he's giving away his wife, he's freeing his wife. He means to free her and give her away only after the gemar misa. It's logical to say that when he's giving away nechasim, it's also after the gemar misa, and therefore Abaye would hold that the matana of the noisen will kick in before the matna shchivmer of Reuben. You see how moments count in this case. Omer Abzera, Omer B'Yochanan, Halacha Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. The halacha is like Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. Again, what did Rab Shimon ben Gamliel say? He said that either according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's kinyan perish kinyan guf, and therefore Reuben could sell it. Reuben would be able to sell it. Or according to Rish Lakish, what it means is if he said acharecha, he'd be able to sell it. Even if amongst what the nechasim were, there were also avodim knainim, and Reuben freed those avodim. Shimon doesn't get those avodim. Frank Marpshita, like why would the avodim have a different status than the other? And then the other nechasim, if he gave it away, it would work. So Gemara Mao the Tema the Amarlei, the Noison will say I didn't give you my estate that you should do an affair with it. It's an affair to free an Evet Knani. It says the Olam Behem Tavoidu. So I gave it to you in a Tanai that you want to affairs with. If you can do affairs with it, it's not yours. Kamash Salam that you gave it to him unconditionally, and if he does an affair with it, that's his own business. Amar Rabbi Yosef, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Halacha Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Afilu also Tachrichem L'meis. Even if he made the assets into Tachrichem L'meis, which makes them permanently Asur Bana, that now Shimon won't be able to benefit from them. Pshita, why should it be any different in selling it? Maybe I didn't give it to you that you were going to answer it, but no, I didn't give it to you under that condition. Kamash one, it's unconditional.
No strings. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
No strings attached.
No strings attached. That's right. Dorish Rab Nachman by Rav Chisda. Now we're going to get into Esri. What if someone says, Akiva, we always talk about the Esri. Esri zeh notzin lach b'matan. A noisen goes over to Reuben and says, I'm giving you this Esri b'matana, so it should be lachem, so you'll be able to be mekayim the mitzvahs arba minim on the first day of Sukkot. Yacharecha, and after you, leploini, I wanted to go to Shimon. So the halach is not loy rishon v'yatzaboy. If Reuben made his bracha on it, banu l'machloikis Rabbi v'Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. According to Rabbi Kinyan Peres Lafka Kina Guf, he doesn't own the Guf Esrik. If he doesn't own the Guf Esrik, he's not going to be Yaitzer. But according to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, where you could even sell it, Kinyan Peres Kina Guf, we say that this Mekabel Reuven owned the Esrik, goes lachem, and he's Yaitzer.
Calling your parents, but he only has a time limit.
Yeah, whenever you have something for a limited amount of time, you only have a Kinyan Peres. Maskav Lor Abnachim Bar Yitzchak. I don't know who said that you need a Kinyan Guf to be Mekayim Mitzvah Lachem. Maybe it's enough to have a Kinyan Peres. All of the use available from this fruit at this time is mine. So Maskav Lor Abnachim Bar Yitzchak. Ad kan loy pligi Rabbi Reb Shimon Gamliel Hasam. Why is Rabbi and Reb Shimon Gamliel arguing whether or not you could sell it? Al the Mars over Kinyan Peres Kinyan Guf dummy. Mars over Kinyan Peres Lav Kinyan Dam. Lav Kinyan Guf dummy. Allah by the Esrig, the Paris is enough. If you're going to tell me, like Rebbe holds, that he's not Yoitze, because Kinyan Peres Lav Kinyan Guf, L'may Havasnali. So what exactly did he give it to him? He must be giving it to him to have some benefit from. What benefit do you expect from that? What am I giving it to him for? Obviously, I'm giving it to him to be Yoitze, and that's enough. Everybody holds it to be Yoitze. The Shiloh would be is Machra Achla. Yes, and we're going to learn the Rashbam that's going to clarify that. Machra Achla, but what if he sold it or ate it? Then the question is, does Shimon get it or not? Then Banil Machlekes Rabbi Shimon, which is whether or not he could sell it. Yeah, but maybe he's
Yeah, but who owns it after Sukkot?
Shimon. So let's see the Rashbam on the Kuplam Zayda Meralov, the last Rashbam, about 6 lines in the bottom. Akan like pligi Rabbi Reb Shimon the Paris to Risha in the Vadai Paris is everybody holds that Reuben gets Kinyan Paris. And Libahaki pligi. The Machlaik is Reb Shimon Taber Kinyan Paris Yesh the Risha is Kekina Guftam. Afidu Rish Lakish, because this was a case of Acharecha, the Acharecha shiny. For Rabbi Sabar, Lav Kekina Guftam. The Macher as a Guf, well, also like Lum. Rabbi Old selling the Guf, it wouldn't be a sale. Aval Bepeiros, Hakal Modim Disley. Everybody holds that Reuven does have a Kinyan Paris. Hilchach Gabe Esrik and Nami, Yitzias Yidei Vasoi, Litloi, Hanu Peroiso. Being Yoitz in the mitzvah with an Esrik, that is Lachem. Rabbi Yotza, even if you only have a Kinyan Paris, that's enough to be Yoitza, the mitzvah of Lachem. Because you have everything of its use for this period of time. So therefore, don't tell me that whether or not I'm yoytze with the Kenyan pairs is totally in your Rebbe, in your Yochanan, in your Rebbe, and your Shimon Gamliel. Everybody holds your yoytze, even with the Kenyan pairs. The whole shaila is if you sold it, would it be considered sold, or could Shimon go and take it away? Okay, so Mati's asking if it's ochla, so there's nothing left to talk about. So what would the shaila be by ochla? But by the free sugya, it doesn't fit in so good over here. But by the free sugya, mocher ochla meant he sold it and he used up all the money, so there's nothing left. So here ochla, if he ate it, I said he wouldn't be yoytze. Partially would be yoytze. He would be yoytze, and Shimon doesn't get it because he ate it up. Unless he would be mechuyev to pay, because according to Rebbe, maybe he's mechuyev to pay because he ate up the goof, which was never his. So maybe he'd have to pay. And according to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, he wouldn't have. Amar Rabba by Rav Huna. What if a father died and he left over an esrog in the estate, or there was cash in the estate and they bought with it an esrog? So now this is basically an esrog shoshut. So nobody could say it's lachem because nobody has full ownership of it. So the halacha is not like echad man v'yotzev. What if somebody tried to be yoytze the mitzvah lulav with it? Im yochal achla, if he would be allowed to eat it, meaning if his brothers don't care about it because they have so many extroigim around and they don't really need it, so they don't care if he would eat it up because it's insignificant in the scope of what's there. Im yochal achla yotza, because we'll say that they were moichelit to him and they let him have it completely, so he will be yoytze with lachem, and it wouldn't be shoshutim because they're not makbara. But if they didn't have a esrogim and they needed that esrog, there's no way they were giving up their chedik of that esrog. They would be makbara on him not to destroy it. Well, then it's an esrog shoshutim and loyot. V'davka deika esrog l'chol chad v'chad. This only makes sense if they had other esrogim. They had access to other esrogim. If not, they would surely be makbara. In the next four words, of a parsha of even if they had some other fruit, it wouldn't help. Of course, they wanted an esrog, but it's very redundant, these words. So let's look at the Rashbam. The Rashbam is getting a little bit pointed over here. If you look at here, the Rashbam of a parsha riman loy, that's arichais perish shel shoitabu. Some nut bar decided to add in these words. The einay min Gemara. Rashbam does not have a lot of patience for people who are just adding their own perushim in. If there's not another S, that's correct. No, because it also means if they would be makbid. If they would be makbid, it wouldn't be yaitze. And even if they're not makbid officially, but there's no other esrog, that means obviously they are makbid because they also need to be yaitze.
That's the third guy, or is that even the two of them?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Who's not Yosy? Is it the third? The guy
Nobody's yaitze because he has to have it with everybody.
So even the two brothers will not be Yosy?
That's right. Of course, nobody would be yaitze because I don't know the completely. He doesn't know the completely. Now let's look at the second wide line in the Rashbam, because in the olden days they would have a whole city that would share an esrog, and everybody wanted it. How does that work? Zok the Rashbam u'minik shalonu shenahagu levorech kol akol the esrog echad. That's because daitenu maskemes loses kol echad b'matanes chelkoi lechaverei. As each person gets it, the whole community is giving it to him completely. Kidamriyan gabe Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Shua, Masechah Sukkah, the Alpagav the Loi Parish, even though they don't say beferish, we're all giving you your chelik. It's command the parish them. It's as if they spoke it out. The Loi Gara mimatana manas lahachzer. It's no better. It's no worse than the matana manas lahachzer. Lahachi mia das kol akol shava. Everybody surely agrees. Sheyinasein lechol echad achi yavar chalav, and then the achari yachzer. Then he'll give his chelik up to everybody else. This is only relevant on the first day of Sukkot. You could use anything. Okay.
In the small towns where they have taco one esrog, it's bought by the shul, so everyone owns it.
But that still wouldn't work because the Rashbam speaks out that an esrog shel shutfim nobody's yoytze. It has to belong exclusively to you when you're using it. So everyone in the shul would have to give up their chelik so that as each person shakes it, they're the exclusive owner.
I read this, the ending is, that's what I checked.
He does.
Hmm.
By the time he's finished, it's all brown, probably.
Right, he gets the new estimate.
Oh, okay. If you're a rabbi, you could do that. Gewaltig. Zog to Gemara weiter. Amar Rava. Amar Rava. Esrog zeh noten loch b'matana amonashe tachsireu. Right. That's what you usually do. If you have an esrog, another guy doesn't, and it's on the first day of Yom Tov, you give him a matana mahaslachs. So not loy the yotzaboy and the chsiroi yotza, because if he fulfilled the t'nai, it was his during that period of time, and therefore he's joy to the mitzvah. But lo yachsiroi, if he doesn't give it back, then lo yotza, because since he didn't fulfill the t'nai, it's a glory Muslim afraid it was never his. Kamash Mulon, what do you see from here? The matana amanas lachzer shema matana. And matana amanas lachzer is a legitimate matana. There was this woman, the Havalo Dikla Ba'ara de Rabibi Barabai. She had a dekel that was landlocked in the property of Rabibi Barabai. So Kol Hemas Davas Oslo Mixeray, every time she needed to access it to go trim it or harvest it, to have a cup of diluya. Rabibi will get frustrated with her. I'm not sure why. Maybe because she used to hack up my China. Who knows? Uh-huh. Okay, so Aknisai, that's such a boring reason. Aknisa Nehalei Kol Shnei Chaya. So she didn't want to chop it with him. So she said, you know what? I'm being makna the Paris of my decal. I'm giving you a long-term lease until you die. So that's called a Kinyan Paris. Now, do you remember? We had a discussion. The Rashbam spoke it out. When you say nechasei loch ve'acharecha leploini, so there we say that the first guy doesn't have a standard Kinyan Paris. He has a Kinyan Paris, Kinyan Guf that he could actually sell it, right? So why, if I lease you a property, can't you go sell it? It's the same thing. I'm giving you a Kinyan Paris. You sell it, and then you could steal from it. What about Rabbi Yochanan? If you say Kinyan Paris, Kinyan Guf. So the Rashbam tells us there's a very big difference. So when I'm leasing you something, it's as if I'm saying ve'acharecha to me. If I'm leasing you something, it's obvious that I expect you to return it. But when I'm giving it to you, I know at the end of the day, it's not going to be mine. I'm giving it away completely. I'm dying. I'm giving it away completely. So since I'm giving it away completely, that gives you more of an ownership. But if I'm specifically building into it that I want it back, which is, you don't need to say it, it's obvious. If I'm leasing you a property, I want it back, there, klor, you wouldn't be able to sell it. So let's see what happened over here. Azaliu, Rabibi Babai pulled a stub. Iknaya nihalei lebnoi cotton. He sold it to his son who's a cotton, and now she couldn't get it back. Even if her son, the cotton, wanted to sell it back to her, he can't even sell. So he really did a job on her as an appreciation for her giving him the tree.
But he can't even give it to his son.
Gewaltig. Frank Monty, why can't he? Exactly. Frank Monty and Frank Barrel, he can't give it away. It's a lease. Amar Vundaber Bishua, Bishum de Osu Mimuloi. Since Rabbi Babai came from a city called Muloi, Amrisu Milamul Yasa, you say cut down stupid things. Muloi was a city that Abai and Rava came from, which is a city that the Bnei Eli lived in. The Bnei Eli had a curse that they were going to die in their youth. And that means they were cut down. So you come from a city where people are cut down, so you say chopped up, not sensible things. Of course, if you lease it out, you get it back. Like Rivera asked right away, and like Monty asked right away. Like father, like son. Amar Rava, Amar Rav Nachman. Shorzeh nosen lach b'matana almanash taksireyu li. I'm going to give you this shor for a week. Maybe you need to plow with it. Almanash that you give it back to me. Very kind, very generous. So what does this behemoth do? Take disha, who is makdish it. So the halacha is hareza muktash umukser. It's considered returned, which means it was his, and therefore he was able to be makdish. Amalei Rav Rav Nachman, Maya Hadre. That's not called giving it back. It's hektish. Wherever it is, but they go to the Rachmanis. Amalei, but in my chasre, it's here. Elo Amar Bashi Chazina, it depends. E Amar Le Almanasha Taxi Reyu plain. I'm not that you give it back. Hadre, it's given back. But Amar Le Almanasha Taxi Reyu Li. I want you to give it back to me. Then what I mean, midi the chazi like I mean, I want it back so that I could continue using it, and therefore you didn't fulfill your tnai. It was never yours, so then you never was able to make it hektish in the first place. So the mafreya is not hektish. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Hakaisav nechasav la'acher. You write a star. I'm giving my nechasim to Pliny. But Amar Aloi Iav Sheben, and the guy said, I don't want your present. I don't want your present. Remember, we looked by Bachar. It's a matav. You can refuse it. Rabbi Yochanan said, Shmuel said, "Kana, you can't anyway." Even though he's screaming, I don't want it. Very fair. How could you be kind of matana against your will? Rabbi Yochanan Maloi Kan. Amar Bava B'mama V'Loi Pli. You're not really arguing. Going on Tamid Aleph. Kan b'tzavach me'ekara. Where did Rabbi Yochanan say that it's not a matana? If from the moment you give it to me, I don't want it. There, you don't get it. And the Rashbam sticks in. You know what happens to it? If someone wants to give you a matana and you refuse it, what happens to it? So Dr. Rashbam, you already were misalik yourself from it. It's hefker. Tosfos argues, and kan b'shoisik meikara l'b'soif tzava. When you gave it to me, yeah, no, why not? And then an hour later, I wake up, I don't want it. So there, it's too late. There, it's too late. Why would I first want it, then not want it? So we're going to have a case soon where you found out that in the estate were avodim that you have to support. And it's not so exciting anymore. So we'll stop here, Be'ez Hashem, and we will be mamshach tomorrow. And we have a good tavach, a gewünscht tavach.
Gittvach.